there is this NFL Players Association survey that goes out to all the NFL players, and it gives the results, give a grade to different teams for things like food that they serve in the cafeteria, facilities, ownership, coaches, all this sort of stuff. And every year we look at it, and it's usually pretty rough for the Panthers. But this year I think we should handle it a little bit different, because there is also a separate anonymous survey that went out to NHL agents. And it was about the same kind of deal, right? Ownership, front office, where would you like to play, whatever. And I thought that was a really good way to look at a couple of questions here, or look at answers from both of these surveys. Because obviously the Panthers, for lack of a better term, haven't won very much in the last 5 years, right? They've been near the bottom or at the bottom at different times over the last 5 years. Meanwhile, the Canes have made the playoffs every year. They've won a playoff series in every year. They have a lot of goodwill built up, right? So it's like, let's see how the ownership or the team or whatever fares in these anonymous surveys compared to one that's winning a lot less or winning a lot more, depending on how you compare them. Dennis, you've looked through all of these surveys. Why don't you give us some of the more interesting answers?
So looking at let's go Carolina Panthers to start things off when it comes to football at 4. So a lot of their grades are actually relatively similar to what they had last year in terms of, for example, the Panthers locker room grade in 2024, the players last year in their survey said C+. This year's survey, C. So again, roughly the same. Treatment of families went from a B to a B+. Okay. So different things like that. So everything relatively close.
Which likely means there weren't any significant changes, right? Like, yeah, they may have changed the poster of who's on the which player is being promoted, but it's the same room, it's the same lockers, whatever.
So the big one comes from regarding ownership. That's the lowest grade. Go figure.
This is stuff I'm looking forward to hearing.
So these are again anonymous player. Well, it's NFL Players Association. Mm-hmm. The results, like who gives these individual answers, might be anonymous. But this is coming directly from players in the Carolina Panthers. They feel owner David Tepper. The players feel that the owner only slightly contributes to a positive team culture, ranking 31 out of 32 in the NFL in terms of owners. The players also feel that ownership is only somewhat committed to building a competitive team, ranking dead last out of owners in the NFL, 32 out of 32. So our owner doesn't care.
That stings. And it stings and it stinks. We can, whichever one you choose. That stings for a few reasons. One, the owner has the owner has to sign off on the bigger things, right? If you're going to give a quarterback a gigantic contract, if you're going to reset the market for a wide receiver, if you are going to trade something significant, the owner needs to sign off on it. So if you're a free agent and you're choosing where to go, and I'm not talking about like the T. Higgins or the biggest, the most expensive that are deciding between 30 and 35 million. I'm talking about if you're just a free agent role player with options. You got 3 teams that want you. Similar offers, similar cash. You want to go somewhere where you believe you can win. And if the players on that team are saying the owner doesn't care about winning, you can probably guess how those signing offs will go, right? Hey, we can have this player, but we're going to have to do XYZ financially. It's going to be a big commitment from you. You're going to have to put a bunch of money in escrow. No. Who's going to want to play for that team? Right? Role players want to win too. I do think most of the super duper high ticket free agents do go to the highest bidder, but you get to that next tier and below, and they're looking at situation, and now you don't have an owner that you love.
So another one of the big complaints regarding the team are they feel like some of the facilities are a little bit outdated, like weight room equipment, those things, but the need for renovations and continued use of turf instead of grass is one of the biggest complaints from Panthers players, and that's also one of the reasons why there's a lot of continued low grades, driving down that grade for owner David Tepper.
Do you know what's frustrating about that? The turf versus grass thing is such a simple fix. For a billionaire, it is such a simple fix. And it's been extremely public. Like it comes up 3 times a year in like I learn that people are upset about the turf for the Panthers against my will 3 times a year. Like, I'm not clicking a link. I'm not Googling it. I'm not searching for it. It comes up in things like this survey. It comes up in things like when Lionel Messi comes to play at Bank of America and he doesn't like playing on turf. And it comes up like if I'm an owner, if I'm, what is he, 30 billion, something like that, 22 billion,
it's 20,
whatever it is. If I have that much money and I know there's like a universally approved thing, like if I do this, everyone will be happy, I would do it. If like all of my employees are universally like, we'd like to have grass, why not? It's just, it feels almost stubborn to not do it at this point.
It's because Tepper wants to... couple things. One, it's cheaper to maintain. But two, he wants to do concerts and those kinds of things there and don't have to worry about ripping up grass.
I understand the logic. Mm-hmm. I mean, how much does it cost to just
resod?
Resod, I don't know, 4 times a year. Like you're a billionaire. Do you know do you see what the salary cap is? They just updated it today. I think it's $279 million. For this upcoming year, that's official, $279 million NFL salary cap. Do you know how they decide what the salary cap is?
It's revenue.
It's 49% of revenue. Owners get 51%. So you're getting an additional percent more as an owner than $279 million from owning the Panthers. Now, obviously, there's operating costs, and it's not like you're getting $279 in profits to go, or $280, whatever it is, in profits to go run to your. But take $1 million, right? Like that's ridiculous for me to say, but I'm talking about somebody that's revenue sharing up to $200 and something million. Take $2 million and give your team something they want. So
if you look at conversely, looking at the NHL survey.
Okay.
So this is done by The Athletic.
So general vibe from the NFLPA is David Tepper not highly thought of. Mm-hmm. But if you believe in the winning solves everything, that makes sense, right? Like you lose a lot, people aren't going to be happy with the ownership. Now let's look at the Canes.
Oh, by the way, real quick, head coach Dave Canales got an A- grade. So
hey, way to go, Davey C.
So if we actually look at the NHL survey, this is done by The Athletic. So The Athletic did a survey earlier this year with players, players saying like, hey, what team do you hate to play against? What building you hate? Those kinds of things. Now this was actually done, but with NHL agents. Mm-hmm. So these agents represent obviously hundreds of players across the league. A couple of the questions that were asked: which is the best run franchise in the league? Number 1, Tampa Bay. Next to, like, tie for second, Florida and Vegas. Go on to what is the best run front office in the NHL? Tampa Bay right there at the top, along with Minnesota, Dallas, all right there at the top. But then you go to teams that are most unstable.
Have we heard Carolina in any of these
lists?
We
have not,
okay.
but
I was like, did I miss something? That's fine. Go ahead.
Which is the most unstable or poorly run franchise? Believe it or not, the team the Canes are playing tonight, Buffalo, they stink. Anaheim, Chicago, San Jose, Carolina, coming in 5th in that category. But by and far, you go the most difficult front office to deal with, tied for second behind Anaheim, Carolina Hurricanes. Hurricanes along with the New York Islanders. But here's the biggest one. Who's the worst owner in the league?
That's just simply the question?
Simply, who's the worst owner in the league? By far the highest answer, Tom Dundon.
When you say by far, what spreads are we talking about?
He had a 10, the next one was a 5. So like double the next person. Double the next person. And here, these are anonymous quotes. I'll read these from NHL.
That's like a Tepper number there. That's like...
Yes.
Wow.
Like, the agents feel like he is the worst owner in the league. And here are some of the quotes. Quote, I don't know how he has the time or energy. He's the de facto general manager. That's what one agent said. Another agent said, a lot of people in our business hate to deal with Tom, hate the fact that Tom is so bleeping involved, and he is basically the manager, and he has a lot of strong opinions too, and he's not afraid to tell all of us privately those opinions.
Wow.
So, yeah, no decorum. Also saying, quote, this is another general manager. His general managers, this is another agent. Tom Dundon's general managers and assistant GMs have to ask him permission for anything. And then continues on, another one said, they've got some smart people there, but you just feel their culture by not even working there, just being around it. It's not a great one.
Okay, so 2 things. One, we do have to consider the source on this. This is coming from agents.
Agents.
If agents are getting quote unquote beat in negotiations, they probably don't like the person beating them.
Or they're just tough to deal with.
Exactly. So I'm just saying maybe grain of salt, right? Like if somebody is just gave up 40 to LeBron and then they come out and say he's the best basketball player in the world, I'm gonna be like, all right, well you're a little biased right now. The second thing is, I am wildly surprised that you'd be that negative about a team that wins so often, right? Because you would think you would, as an agent, you would be excited to put your players, your clients, on a team that is going to make the playoffs every year. And I mean, for the good and bad of Tom Dundon, and I'm sure on this network and many others we've talked, and they've talked about a whole bunch of positive pros and cons. Hard to argue with the results since he took over, as far as turning a franchise that was losing a bunch into a franchise that wins a bunch. So I think it's the word you said. I think it's decorum. I think there's a way to say, no, the deal you're proposing is outlandish without it being painful and hurtful.
One agent said about Carolina, and Tom Dundon said, quote, "It's dysfunctional how the owner micromanages everything."
And you could probably say decorum is one of Tepper's things as well. Like it's not putting them in the same category because, again, winning and losing are different. But there is, I don't know, maybe a little brash, and people don't like dealing with brash.
Ironically, the team voted with the best front office, the best run organization, Tampa. Their owner, Jeff Vinnick, was voted the best owner in the league. And that's a team that also wins.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, just because you're winning doesn't mean that you're like everything's all rosy, or vice versa.
Yep, exactly.
But Buffalo, the worst run franchise, they stink. They're the worst team in the Eastern Conference. Tom Pagula, their owner, was the second highest rated worst owner in the league, and Tom Dundon had twice as many votes as him. I'm just
going to be honest. I'm surprised that Dundon, even knowing, like, you go back to the Aho situation years ago, you go back to the Kotkaniemi offer sheet, you go back to so many of these deals dragging on, and we're just going, just sign them, you're going to do it. Like, we've tracked all of that. I'm still surprised that he is that far and away voted 32 out of 32. I would expect it, as we said earlier, I would expect a lot of 30-plus rankings for things going on with the Panthers, because the winning hasn't been there, the dysfunction's been there. For the Canes, I'm surprised.